Go.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Hey, how do I see the chat box? How do I see the chat box?
We do kind of need that keyboard.
Here. That's not live. Should be that.
Just gonna throw this over here so you have it. There you go.
Okay.
So it's just there. I'll need to work on something else later.
All right. Sounds
It'll
good.
work great.
Thank you.
Throw this over here so you have it.
Okay.
So it's just there. I'll need to work on something else later.
All right. Sounds
It'll
good.
work great.
Thank you. Check one.
So it's just there. I'll need to work on something else later.
All right. Sounds
It'll
good.
work great.
Thank you. Check one. Check one. Alrighty, good evening, everybody. Sorry for the technical difficulties there. This is our first time doing this. Welcome to Let's Talk Marine Surveying podcast. My name is Joshua Ward. I'm going to be your host and owner of JW Marine Service Surveyors LLC. Alrighty, good evening, everybody. Coming to you from luxurious Escape Marine Studios located in my basement. Welcome. Weather is 71 degrees and partly cloudy, and the weather during this broadcast will not hinder any portion of this inspection. So, little shout out there to InspectX software, if anybody knows that or uses it. Also, wanted to state that the mandatory standards promulgated by the United States Coast Guard under the authority of Title 46 United States Coast Guard, Title 33 and 46 Code of Federal Regulations, and the voluntary standards and recommended practices developed by the American Boating and Yachting Council, ABYC, and the National Fire Protection Agency, NFPA, have not been used as guidelines in the conduct of this broadcast. Complete compliance with identification of and reporting on all standard codes and regulations is not guaranteed. So a little bit of housekeeping there. Also, get this out of the way real quick. All the information provided by me and my company, JW Marine Surveyors, on Let's Talk Marine Surveying is for educational and informational purposes only, and does not constitute professional advice. While we strive to provide accurate and up-to-date information, interpretations of facts and science may change. Please consult with a qualified professional marine surveyor for advice specific to your situation. I'm looking at 20 different screens tonight, so please bear with me. My phone's vibrating. So my producer is here with me, who's helped me out with technical difficulties in the meantime. And it's going to be a learning curve. So I'm looking at 20 different other than that, if you're in need of a qualified marine surveyor, please check out the following websites. Navtech USSA website at www.navsurvey.com, and click on the USSA roster located at the top of the page, or www.acms-usa.com, and click on Find a Surveyor for a list of qualified surveyors in your area. So looks like we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people on right now. Brad, hello, how are you in sunny www.acms. What's that? Oh, we have 18 subscribers. Sorry. We do hear an echo, Josh. So what would that be? So looks like we got 1, 2, 3, 4. Sure, turn this down a little bit. 5 people on right now. Brad, hello. How are you in check. We'll see if that does the trick. And want to get rid of the echo, that's for sure. No echo, Brad. Thank you, Brad. Appreciate it for letting me know there's no echo now. Everybody thank Ryan, my son, for helping out there and getting rid of the echo. Also wanted to say hello to Craig from Inspectex, Craig Norton. Thank you very much for being on. And Martin Mayer is on. He is my associate surveyor, works with me. We actually had 2 surveys today. And Brad, like I said, out there in the Midwest. And who else we got on here? That's pretty much it so far. So, hey, hopefully more people hop on. Like I said, we got 18 subscribers. So we're going to get started. First and foremost, you know, why do a podcast for marine surveying? Well, I'll tell you what. It's you know, I got into this, and as we get further and further down the road, and the explanation of such, you know, anybody that's come into the realm of marine surveying, it's really a hard road to get down. You know, where to start, where you want to go, and what you want to do as a marine surveyor. You know, hopefully this podcast will benefit new surveyors coming on and into the field as we get better and better at this, and then also more experienced surveyors as well, you know, that are in the field and have been doing this for quite some time. So, you know, I am not a subject matter expert by any means on anything in regards to this. I don't pretend to be the best marine surveyor out there. But as I went through these past couple of years, getting JW Marine Surveyor started, I leaned to go along against a lot of people for advice, both technical and personal. and it really helped out. So hopefully, my goal is to help out those surveyors coming in. And also, if any surveyors have any questions, comments, or concerns, we can put them in the right direction. Oh wow, Jacob Payette is on. Hello, Jacob. How you doing? Um, that is really cool. Jacob actually used to serve with me in the United States Naval Sea Cadet Corps. And Jacob, by the way, thank you for your service. What else we got? Benefits. Why else do a podcast? Benefits for clients and potential clients. Hopefully, the goal is if we do a bi-weekly podcast or a monthly podcast, depending on how this works out, hopefully, not just myself here in New Jersey, but for any marine surveyors out there, you know, the clients can come on. We can offer them some kind of format here online that will benefit them and help them out, making a purchasing decision, or if they have a question that they haven't gotten answered, or during the buying process they have other issues that they need to answer, and that is ultimately, to how I'd like to help out in the industry. And then there's also benefits for brokers, insurance agents, lenders, and manufacturers, right? Brokers, we all work with brokers every single day. Some can be, an interesting lot to work with. You like working with them, but as we all know, brokers, for better or worse, see marine surveyors as just another hurdle sometimes to overcome. I don't see it that way. I'm sure there's a lot of other marine surveyors out there that don't see it that way. We're just trying to educate our clients because we work for the client ultimately, and we want the client to actually have a great time out on the water. I always tell my clients, I try to put them in a boat that's going to make them happy with their family, right? So what that means to me is when I was growing up, my parents had a sailboat, and there was good weekends and there was bad weekends, and our job is to make sure they have a lot more good weekends starting out, so the experience is better, and it lasts a lot longer. And I always tell my clients for sure that if they ever have questions later on down the road, I'm here for them 24/7. Just because I turn out a report to them doesn't mean that I walk away from them as a client. And that's just my business philosophy and business decision. So anyway, back to brokers, and we're going to hopefully have a couple brokers on here on the podcast pretty shortly. Hopefully, maybe on the next one, not too sure. I got some local guys and girls that are interested in coming on and doing a interview with us, and then hopefully everybody can ask them a question, and try to figure out what we can do better on both sides of the coin. Whether it's from the broker side and what they look for from a surveyor, or what the surveyor looks for a broker. And I could tell you, and we'll get into it a little bit, from using, I am a firm believer in using Boat History Report. They do a great job. I work the boat history reports into my surveys, and the clients find value in them. And I've come up on a couple projects now, a couple jobs that the boat came back as damaged or total loss, and we want to provide the most information as possible in that survey report. And sometimes, not always, but sometimes the brokers, they're there to sell the boat, and they sit there and say, well, I don't know anything about the boat, Josh, right? And I go and I pull up a boat history report, and come to find out that the entire starboard side of the boat was ripped off of it, and the broker had no idea about it, and the guy selling the boat probably didn't have any idea about it because he bought it from somebody else. But yet here we are, and we have to disclose that to our client, and the brokers don't really like that. So sometimes it kills a sale. Sometimes, in the instance that I had today, myself and Martin were on a boat for a client, And we had the boat history report, and come to find out that the entire starboard side was actually ripped off in 2022, and nobody knew about it or said they didn't know about it. But we wanted to inform the client and give the client as much information as possible in the report, and that helped us do that. And then the guest service at Boat History Report, they're fantastic. Every time I call down there, Carolyn Mantle does a fantastic job, and she sits there and, hey Josh, this is the information that I have, right? So anyway, brokers, insurance agents, I can't tell everybody, and I'm sure everybody knows this. Maybe you don't, maybe you do. But I can't tell you how many times I got a phone call from a client, and they say, "Oh, are you affiliated with this group or the second?" And I'm not going to name the groups; everybody knows. And I say no. They ask me why, and oh, geez, my insurance agent said you have to be affiliated with these two groups. And thanks to the help of Dr. Harper at Navtech, for sure, and Jim Cross up at ACMS, we find that is a conflict of interest. They can't do that necessarily and legally, but we all know that marine surveying is a unregulated business, and the insurance agents are just basically and lenders are basically trying to cover their own, and so to speak, and they want the best person on the job. And again, we're going to get into that later on in the podcast, but I want to help insurance agents understand through the podcast here, and hopefully with the help of everybody else here, that there's not just two individual groups. There's more than that, right? We know that. IIMS is one group. SAMS and NAMS are two other groups. ACMS is a group. Navtech USSA is a group. And we're all certified. And hopefully we take our certification seriously. And that's another thing we're going to get into in the podcast, and make sure that that's all good for the insurance agents and the lenders. I can't tell you, and I stress to all the surveyors out there, that lenders, I believe, and I've been told this by several different people, the banking agencies. I have a very good friend who is the vice president of operations for Valley National Bank. And I just did two passenger ferries up in Brooklyn, New York, about 3 months ago. And they're the only ones that could really sit there and say, hey, we want this surveyor or that surveyor. They qualify their surveyors because they can. They're lending the money. And because of that, I got hooked up with Valley National Bank, and they were very good people, taught me a lot more about appraisal processes in the commercial sector than I ever knew before. And they became very good friends, and they put me on their approved vendor list. So if any surveyors are out there, and you're looking for, hey, how do I increase my visibility? How do I increase my my client base? How do I increase, how do I get out there? How do I get my name out there? I highly recommend you start with lenders, and find out what banking institutions are lending in your area for the marine sector, and giving them cold call. I know it's hard sometimes. Cold calling is probably the hardest marketing you can do. And talk to the right people and find out, hey, how do I get on your approved vendor list? And then they have a list, and then, if somebody has a survey, then you're on that approved vendor list. You're going to get more exposure, right? And then ultimately, manufacturers. Manufacturers are the ones that make the boats. I've tried to and successfully gotten into a couple manufacturing warehouses for the marine sector and boats. I passed on I still got to get down to South Carolina and get to some boat manufacturers down there. But everybody I've called has been fantastic. But manufacturers want to know what marine surveyors want to know too. So getting involved with them is another way to get more information out here on this podcast. And hopefully, I know a lot of people. Maybe I could get Bob Healy on here. He's a good friend of mine, Viking Yachts, local in the area, or my uncle Bob Keller, who's also works for Viking Yachts. and discuss manufacturers and the relationship with marine surveyors. Um, One of the simplest reasons why I'm doing this podcast is, of course, increased visibility. Increased visibility for my company, increased visibility for due north yacht surveyors, like I said, with Brad, and anybody else who's looking to increase visibility. Increased visibility for the certification agencies that I keep talking about, NAVTEC, ACMS. Um, Increased visibility for people that supply us with our products to do our jobs, whether it be InspectX or what's it 3D Inspect or Force 5. Um, getting them out there and in front of surveyors or other people in the industry that are making decisions and say, hey, look, here we are. If I could form a business relationship through this podcast, then I've just one business relationship, then I've done my job, right? So, and that's what I'm ultimately looking to do, and I believe there's also a deficiency in this market during this. I know that the marine surveying industry as a whole. We do conferences, we do webinars, everybody's involved with ABYC and their webinars. Uh, and so on and so forth. Towing Vessel Inspection Bureau and their webinars. IAMI, the International Association of Marine Investigators, and their webinars and their meetings. I know, I know that Craig out there, who's watching, he's all over. Carolyn Mantle's all over with Boat History Report. They're always going to conferences and that sort of thing. But for us as independents, who aren't part of the I'll call them the big two conglomerates, there's not really a lot of this kind of thing out there for us. And again, my goal is to share information and get it out there to everybody, and hopefully the certification agencies see the benefit in this as well. And this catches on, and we can use this platform moving forward. Because again, I think there's a gap here, and any information that we can get out there to anybody is of value. And if any marine surveyor is on this podcast and wants to ask a question, and we can relay it, then that's great. Like I said, just use the chat, and we'll answer questions throughout this. Like I said, we got 18 subscribers on right now, and one thumbs up, it looks like. So we'll see how it goes. First and foremost, I wanted to give everybody a background on who I am. It's nice to meet everybody. I think everybody on this podcast right now, I know individually or have spoken to, and that's great. But sometimes you want to know where people got started, and I had a brief outline here of some talking points that I wanted to get to, and on this platform, guess what? I get to talk about myself, and I love talking about myself. I really do, but I also love bringing other people into it, people that have helped me get to where I am. So a brief overview of JW Marine Surveyors. In 1999, my father founded Escape Marine Surveyors, Captain George Ward IV. I had his 100-ton master's license, and he was through the help of, believe it or not, the people that are on here, Jim Cross and Dr. Harper. He got into marine surveying, and he was really good at it. I still have his certifications in my office here, hanging up. And it was in the late '90s, and he's like, Josh, he goes, I think I have something here. Do you want to do it with me? And I said, sure, I'll do it with you, Dad. We had boating background. We were both at that time. He was getting out of the Coast Guard. I was going into the Coast Guard. I was in the Coast Guard Reserves. I took my dad's billet at Station Barnegat Light in 1997 as an MK, a mechanic, diesel mechanic, and then he left, and I took over where he left off. But we founded the company Escape Marine Surveyors in 1999, and then in 2021 I established was the establishment of officially of JW Marine Surveyors. My father had just passed away, and I wasn't going to get into it. And believe it or not, it was kind of crazy the way it happened. I was out of it for a little while, and I kept getting phone calls, and they kept asking, "Oh, George," and I'm not George. I'm his son. And, oh, I need a surveyor. I don't have I'm not a surveyor. Blah blah blah. Long story short, um, I think Jim from ACMS finally reached out to me and said, "Josh, we need a surveyor in your area." And I said, "Okay, why not? Let's try it out." Um, so, when in 2021 I joined ACMS, I think I did a total of 6 boats completed in 2021, and I wasn't very good at it. I'll be the first one to tell everybody I wasn't very good at it. I had a lot going on, as Jacob will tell you around that time, and there was just I was all over the place, and I thought, oh well, I could just hand type the reports in Excel, and this, that, and the third, and just didn't work out very well. I knew the business philosophy and the way to work the business and what was expected in the business, but it just wasn't the right time, and I didn't really have a direction on where to go. And then we rolled into 2022, and I was really unsure what to do, and I really didn't do too many of them. I think I maybe did 3 that year, until my son Ryan turned around and said, "Dad, you should really do this and be serious about it." And I did some soul searching. I go, well, shoot, man. Me and Dad used to do 8 to 10 boats a month, and if I could do 8 to 10 boats a month, um, that should be a good start, and we'll see what we get for a side job. So, but when I started doing that, the phone calls started coming in, and I was happy. My wife would tell you, I get 1 phone call, I get 3 phone calls, and that was the whole goal through 2022 and into 2023. And in 2023, I really recommitted to the business and said, okay, this is what I want to do. I have a great business background. I love talking with people. I'm in the hospitality industry. Um, I'm very good at selling myself and selling my skills. So where do we go from there? So in 2024, I started cold calling and networking. I learned business tactics, and put them in place, and really build a legitimate business. I got my LLC license from the state of New Jersey, insurance. Um, Jim Cross from ACMS was still helping me out. And all of a sudden, I said, well, there's some things that we're missing here on the ACMS side, because there was a lot of people still saying, well, if you're not qualified by the big 2, we don't want to talk to you. So that's when I really buckled down, and I started looking at USSA NAVTEC. And I found my dad's old certifications in a file box, and I said, man, I need to reach out. And I reached out, and of course, NAVTEC was really helpful in getting me set up. And sure, Josh, we'll bring you on, do the testing, we'll send you the books, and send them back to us, and this, that, and the third, and go through the process. And I'll tell you, if it wasn't for NAVTEC, JW Marine Surveyors and ACMS, JW Marine Surveyors wouldn't be what it is today. And we're going to get to where I am. But it really legitimized the beginning steps of the business. It really legitimized it, as well as joining ABYC and a couple other groups. And understanding that just because we're an unregulated business, there's responsibility that comes with that. We police and regulate ourselves, and if you don't take it seriously, you're going to get burned really, really quick. So with that, last year in 2025, we surveyed 3,500 linear feet of boat. I did a couple dead tows in surveys. I did a couple commercial surveys, and that was like, wow, man. I was super happy with that. And obviously, all the steps that we took to get there was fantastic. And then I brought on my son Cameron as a Marine surveyor with ACMS, and he was qualified as a certified Marine engine surveyor since he was in the Coast Guard as well. He was trained in Yorktown, Virginia as an MK, Petty Officer Third Class. Was on the Coast Guard cutter Northland for quite some time, and then he got off the Northland and came to help me out. And then I brought on Martin Mayer, who had an interest in boating, does a lot of fishing, and training him and getting him where he needs to be. And now he's almost, I'd say he's getting there. Martin, you're getting there. It's you're doing really well. So we'll see how we got a couple more to do this week. And then in 2026, this year, as of today, believe it or not, in New Jersey, in the New Jersey market, we've surveyed 2,627 linear feet of boat and 50 tons of cargo. And it's unbelievable. I mean, we've been busy this year. Again, thanks to the help of everybody else and the networking connections that we've made and people that we talk to. It's really, 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 really taken off. And to put that into a visual interpretation, you do some math work here. 2,627 feet divided by 30. It's an average of 88 boats in the past 5 months. 17.5 boats per month, and you divide that by 4 weeks spread, and it puts you up at 4.5 boats per week is what we're doing. And it's taken us a while to get there. So, but we do a really good job. I've gotten to the point where I've been turning away surveys, and I don't want to do that, but I still have a day job. I'm almost to the point where this is getting where it needs to be, and hopefully by next year, God willing, that we'll be able to make this a full-time job in the state of New Jersey, which is pretty hard to do. So anyway, it's we got a brief. I want to do a brief. We'll get to that. A brief overview of a resume, identify key items, and how we got started. I think I pretty much did a good job in doing that. But I wanted to go through a couple things really quick, and in regards to education, certifications, and what were of value to us here at JW Marine Surveyors. And I've broken this down into two different categories: recreational yachting, yacht and small craft surveying, and then the commercial side of things. And boy, I'll tell you, when we get to the commercial side of things, it's definitely interesting. But the recreational yacht and small craft surveyors, like I stated, believe it or not, it's an unregulated business. Anybody will tell you, and there's videos online that everybody says the same thing. It's an unregulated business. You can go and slap your name on the side of a car or on the front of a building and say you're a Marine surveyor. So with that being the statement, my question to myself was, well, Josh, how do you develop legitimacy? And you first have to start out by defining who you are. And the way I define, me personally, the way I define a Marine surveyor, and I tell my clients is, you're basically a public adjuster in the Marine sector, right? Specializing in risk analysis and machinery appraisal services. That's pretty much it. That's what a Marine surveyor is in a nutshell, as far as I'm concerned, in my definition. And with that, what educations were of value, and I've had a lot of people tell me, "Hey, Josh, rate it 1 to 3." I really can't. So I'm just going to go through what I think to me, and anybody can chime in here, please. I see. If you got something, if you think, I'll ask everybody this question. I mean, everybody on this call that's a Marine surveyor, just plug in what you think was. It's a very hard question to ask, but plug in what you think made you, is where you started out. I'd love to hear everybody's answer. But for me, it was definitely, getting the certification. You have to have the background. You have to prove that you have the background. So the first person that gave me that step in the right place for legitimacy was Jim Cross at ACMS. I called Jim one day and I said, when after he asked me, he said, we need a surveyor in your area. I called him back and I said, look, I want to do this. And he's like, okay, Josh, well, there's some things that you need to do. And, I filled out the paperwork for ACMS. And then, he sent me back the certification. I was a MS, a Marine Surveyor, to begin with. And then, I had to wait, I think it was 2 years, and turn in a couple of reports. And then all of a sudden I got my CMS, Certified Marine Surveyor. And I knew I was on the right track there. And when I got my CMS certification from ACMS, that's when I got in touch with Navtech, and really wanted to step up my game as a Master Marine Surveyor. And I had to prove to, you know, Navtech, hey, look, here's what I did. Here's how long I've been in business. And then they validate everything. And, you know, the certifying board at Navtech sits there and says, okay, well, you're this or you're that, right? Luckily, I turned out I was a Master Marine Surveyor, and I got my certification through Navtech. And Navtech had a great uh, program set up. I got to admit, it kind of put me on again on the right path, which is, they have, 10 or 12 different listings of, hey, uh, side educations and side certifications. And at the same time, um, I was a member of, and still am, a member of the U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary, and I was doing commercial fishing safety exams with the auxiliary CFVEs. And as I was in that program, I was like, oh, wait a minute, Navtech has this. I remember my dad had it, um, and let's see what I could do with this. So I took the commercial fishing vessel examiner course through Navtech, and I got the certification letter from Sector Delaware Bay, and sent it down to Navtech as my final certification, and boom, I was off to the races. Uh, I also got I wanted to get into cargo, and we'll talk a little bit about that in the commercial side of things. But I sent Navtech. I said I wanted to get involved with inspecting cargo and inspecting barges and tugs, and boom, they sent me this the educational piece, and I got certified for inspecting cargo and tugs, which was really cool. And then also, uh, the first certification that you really need to get outside of ACMS or Navtech USSA is your ABYC certifications. Um, and there's a lot of them on abyc.com. You create a login profile, and you can join. And it's way beneficial to join ABYC. It really is. ABYC writes standards, as everybody knows. Um, they're not they don't write code or regulation. They write standards, and that's really kind of a good item to identify, especially when you're on a survey. And ABYC has a lot of free when you sign up. I think the application, every time I pay a renewal, I think it's $295 to become a member of ABYC the first time, and then it's like $195 every year after that. And once you're a member, there's a lot of free you know CEU credits that you can get through ABYC. I think there's somewhere around, if I'm not mistaken, maybe 40 free CEUs. Um, and then you got to start paying for them after that. But you get a discount as a member, right? Um, and after I took all the free CEUs, and did a couple more, um, I kept hearing about. And I was talking with Craig at InspectX, and I was talking about standard certification, and I wanted to be a certified advisor through ABYC for ABYC standards. And I looked it up, and it was for me, it was a heavy lift. Um, Financially, it's like, okay, well, I got to take this test, and I got to invest time and study, and you get this really, I'll show you guys if I have it. You get this really cool. Let's see. You get this really cool antiquated book. Everybody's taking the standards test. This you can see all my notes and all my page markings. Um, you take the online courses, and then you know you get that done, and then you sit there and you go, okay, well, now I'm ready for the test, and you take the standard test, and hopefully you pass it. It's a very, I'll tell you, very difficult test because the way it's tested, you have to pay very close attention to the questions that are being asked, because it's more about attention to detail with that test than it is. They want you to find the answer. It's an open book test, but they want you to find the answers, or understand where the answers are at real quick, and be able to get that. And so it took me it took me 2 times, but I got it. And I'll tell you, when I got my ABYC standard certification, um, I don't know what happened, but I mean, doors just started opening up. More people called. It was definitely a huge return on investment. I have it posted on my website, that I'm an ABYC standard certified uh, advisor, and that's a huge badge of honor. And there's more. You can become a master advisor if you take. You get three certifications with ABYC. You can be a master advisor, and that's going to be probably my next goal in the next 2 or 3 years. Whenever I find time, and I got to get away from the field work and actually making money. So, um, it's really cool. But I along the way, I've met a lot of cool people from ABYC, and hopefully we'll be able to have them on the podcast pretty soon. I got to make a phone call down to ABYC, and see who I can get on for an interview, and hopefully get some more information out there to marine surveyors. Um, the other thing that I'll tell you that nobody ever really discusses is what's called IAAI. And believe it or not, I found this company, IAAI, or International Association of Arson Investigators, through becoming a member of IAMI, all these acronyms, International Association of Marine Investigators. Uh, and it's a fire inspector course, certification course. And it's very cheap for what you get. It's $100 to sign up to be a member. And then all the courses on their website are free. They're free. And, if you're a member of the International Association of Marine Investigators and you want to become a fire inspector through IAMI, then these IAAI International Arson Investigator courses transfer over to the International Association of Marine Investigators if you want to become a fire scene investigator for them, and certified through them. So it's actually pretty cool. It also um, honed a couple different things for me as a marine surveyor, taking these courses through the International Association of Arson Investigators. One of them was um, report writing skills. There's so many CEUs in this group, and if anybody wants any of these websites, please let me know if you're jotting them down, or shoot me an email, and I'll give you my email address in a second. But shoot me an email or shoot me a text, shoot me a message, uh, and let me know, um, and I'll get you involved with them. But for report writing skills, it was phenomenal, because fire investigators, they have a lot of reports, and you know it's they got a lot of reports to write up, and then they're always in the courtrooms. And when you look at a report, marine surveying report, you're always writing the report. At least I am, as if you got to explain it to a judge. And this actually hones that skill. The second thing is it also helps out utilizing the scientific method for report writing. And what I mean by that is, um, you know, running through the program of hypothesis, testing, you know, thesis, and you know, and then ultimately conclusions. You know, identifying you utilize it so much in surveying on a boat, you really don't know you're using it. But you know, let's say you get on a boat and there's a bilge pump and you know it's separated from the base in the bottom of the hull, all right, in the bilge. You know, how did that happen, right? You know, obviously we're not there to fix the problem, but how did that happen? What does that look like? Um, you know, it's something that you legitimately when we write a report, and hopefully if I have the opportunity to have Craig from Inspectix on this podcast as well as we continue, he'll be able to explain a lot better. But how do we explain ourselves in the report, and you know what does that look like, and what do we have to put in there in order to paint a picture for somebody that doesn't know what's going on a boat, right? So the other thing is it's you know great for accident and fire investigation, the IAI, and then the precursor to NFPA certifications, the National Fire Protection Agency. It actually gears you up to if you wanted to get a certification as a fire inspector through the NFPA, you can do that through these courses. Okay, so I think I covered everything I wanted to cover in commercial, or I'm sorry, recreational. So now we're going to move into cargo, commercial and cargo. I do both, right? So anybody on here will probably tell you, Josh, you're crazy, you're nuts. I do power boats, or you know, there's some guys that I talk to all the time in sunny South Florida that just do brand new yachts, and I talk to them all the time. I'm like, dude, I got to do another Sea Ray. Yeah, but that's all. It's just funny to me. I'm a subject matter expert on Sea Rays. You give me any length of Sea Ray any year, I'll tell you all about it. But there's guys that I talk to down there in Florida, and they're going, oh yeah, I got another 55 brand new 55 Azimuth fly. I got another 58 Viking. Um, I wish I had that. I do. I have a couple of them throughout the year, but it's pretty interesting. But anyway, commercial and cargo surveying, it was someplace that I wanted to get into, a faction of marine surveying that I wanted to get into, or at least I thought I did. Right? Be careful what you wish for, because it's not all bells and whistles and gingerbread and tinsel. You definitely 100% need to understand first and foremost, it's an educational investment, because the commercial field, without an marine engineering background, will slam the door shut in your face. No questions asked. They won't even talk to you. So what I mean by 100% educational investment, I probably wound up turning around and doing maybe 5 or 6 of my first surveys on barges, tugs, um, fishing vessels. I did them for free. And you're going to go, Josh, you're crazy. Absolutely not. But my opinion is on the subject. Um, I wanted to get education, and the only way to get education and get experience on a commercial vessel of any type is to say, hey, look, you know what? Can I come on your boat and you know do this? And I want to do it for free, and then you can keep the report. I don't care, right? Because the report's it's worth something to me, because then I could turn around and utilize it for documentation purposes if I wanted to join um, the IIMS, the International Institute of Marine Surveyors, who will certify you as a commercial and cargo surveyor, or NAMS, National Association of Marine Surveyors, or SAMS, right? Um, or through USSA NAVTEC. Um, you know, it's super cool and super important that you get that background. And without the marine engineering background, you know, a lot of people tell you it's don't even bother. So what I did was I found a company in Philadelphia. It's called the Philadelphia Barge Company, and they're really great people. Scott and um I always forget his name, but anyway, They're great people, and my son-in-law got me in touch with them and made the first contact. And I called them, and I said, "Hey, look, I want to come over and survey your barges and your tug." And they said, "Sure. When do you want to come over?" And I said, "Well, let me see what's going on, and I'll go from there." And come to find out, it's this is how small of a world um, this industry is when I got over there, come to find out, they were the president and vice president of the Ports of Philadelphia Maritime Association. So man, talk about a door opening, and right place at the right time. And when I went over, I said, "Hey, yeah, I want to learn this." So before I learned it, before I had that opportunity, I had to reach out and again cold call, and I called Jim Cross, and I called Virginia, but I called Jim Cross first, and I said, "Hey Jim, like, do you know anybody that does um, barges?" And he goes, "Sure, Josh." Um, and the company was Barlow, down in Louisiana, and he said, "Give these guys a call, and they'll help you out." And it was great. I called them. I was super nervous. I called them, and they said, "Josh, we're going to send you all of our survey samples, and we're going to send them all to you. We're going to email them all to you." And they were super helpful, and they emailed me all their templates. I'm like, "What? You got to be crazy!" Like, I can't believe you're going to email me all your templates. And they emailed me all the templates, and I took those templates and I looked at them and I studied them, and then I went over to Philadelphia, and I did a couple of these barges for Philadelphia Barge Company, and I utilized the templates, and sure enough, it worked out. And you know that kind of got me into a legitimate spot to begin with, my foot in the door, so to speak, into barges and tugs. And I found out through them, and talking with Scott, who's the one of the owners. He sat me down in his office one time and he said, "Josh," he goes, "You're not, you just so you know, in this industry, you're a what do you call it? A hull and machinery surveyor. That's what you are. That's what you do. You're a hull and machinery surveyor. You don't want to do anything else. You're just a hull and machinery surveyor." I said, "Okay, that makes sense." So I went home and I wanted to see what actually a hull and machinery surveyor was, and I come to find out there's I learned a lot about subchapter M certification, which we'll get into, um, as well as the Towing Vessel Inspection Bureau, who certifies for the U.S. Coast Guard, um, and also um, dry docking procedures, and then also other companies throughout the around the globe that do trainings for commercial and cargo inspections. And then I learned all about flag state inspectors. And I went down this rabbit hole like crazy. What's a flag state inspector? How does that work? Who's in charge of that? What flag state inspection program can I get involved with? But there's a lot of certifications. I think I got to the point, uh, you know, Craig will enjoy this. I got to the point because we were talking about this one time, and I got to the point where I signed up for some certifications probably in January, and I went to do the what's called a draft surveyor, um, and then a bunker surveyor, and a cargo surveyor course. It was all one package. I signed up for it, and I did the cargo surveying course, and I did half of the draft surveyor course, and I am not that mathematically inclined. I can tell you right now, I wish I could do it, um, but it's just so much math. Um, but that's another another way to get into commercial surveys if you wanted to get into that. And some people want to get into commercial surveys, right? So, um, you I know me and Brad out in the Midwest there with Due North. We talked about getting into commercial surveys. He's closer to the Chicago area in Illinois. Maybe on the Mississippi River, there's a lot more commercial surveying to be done. Um, cargo shipping, that sort of thing out there. I think one time I actually um, flew out to Akron, Ohio. I flew out to Pittsburgh, then drove out to Akron, Ohio to do a cargo survey. Which brings me to another thing. If you want to get into commercial, financially, you need to have your ducks in a row ASAP. Because these companies that are out there that call you and hire you, are 9 times out of 10 not in the country, not in the United States. They're shipping from over in Europe or Japan, um, Australia, all over the place, and they have cargo coming in, and they go, oh, we'll pay you. It's net 30, net 30, net 30, and I can't tell you how many times I'm still waiting for checks that were supposed to come in, that were guaranteed to me, that never came in. So you're going to get burnt if you don't have your house in financial order. But it's very fast paced, very, very fast paced. They want a survey. It's going to be tomorrow. How much does it cost? And go, 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 go. And you don't necessarily always have to do a report. They'll write their own reports. They just want somebody out there in the field to take the pictures and that sort of thing. So, and there's, the other thing is that, commercial surveys and cargo surveys, there's a big difference in cargo containers and shipping, right? So if you want to be a cargo container surveyor, I'd recommend the IICL all day long, International Institute of Container Lessees. They have their own certification program. It's actually very reasonable, about $500, and you take the test. And when you take the test, you're certified to inspect intermodal shipping containers, flat racks, all that other stuff, refrigerated containers. It's very fun, to do in the grand scheme of things. I had a lot of fun doing it. If it was, if there was a company again that called me, I would do it. But I started getting the fruit kiwis. Were a big commodity that were coming over about 3 months ago to the United States because it was kiwi season, and that was a lot of fun. Blueberries, I did some blueberries, did some frozen ice cream novelties, and then some liquor. But it really was a fun time. But it's very fast paced, and you don't make it's in that business. It's all about quantity, not quality, I guess you could say. So the amount of cargo containers that you do versus how big they are. It all goes like, if you got 10 cargo containers, you're making decent money. If you got one cargo container, you're not making any money. That's just the way it goes. And sometimes you just got to bite the bullet and do the one in order to get more. So, the other, moving on to the next topic was what marketing strategies were used, and these were all, things that I've talked about with other surveyors that we're talking about tonight. But what marketing strategies were used when building my business? Believe it or not, definitely word of mouth, 100%. Right. The other one is I was really big with I'll just use the easy ones really quick. Print advertisement. All you really need is business cards. Business cards and maybe a flyer. I can't tell you. I'll tell you a story, right? I'm really good at telling stories, I guess, sometimes, but get my water here. I'll tell you a story. So it was last year. I was doing a survey up in Atlantic Highlands, New Jersey, and I pulled into the boatyard. I believe it was like a 32-foot Catalina, something like that. And I got out of my car and I grabbed my gear, and I hear behind me, "Hey, Josh. Hey, Josh." I turned around and I looked at this guy in the car. I didn't know who the heck he was. And I looked at him and I go, "Hey, how you doing?" And I recognized him, but I didn't know who he was. And he goes, "Hey," he goes, "come here." So I walk over to the car and I'm talking with this guy. And turns out he was another surveyor, and a very highly respected surveyor. I'll tell you that. I hold the guy in high esteem. And he's very, very good at what he does. He's been around for a long time in the Northeast. And I said, "Yeah, hey, Bill, how you doing?" And he's like, "Oh, I'm good." And I said, "I know you." And he goes, "You do?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "I know who you are." And he goes, "Yeah, I know who you are too." I said, "Oh, cool, thanks. I appreciate that." And I said, quite honestly, I said, I hold myself, I want to be on your level. And that's what I told him. And I thought that was probably the best compliment I could give somebody. But he had, um, I'll call them palm cards. They were square, like postcards. And I liked them. I asked him for one. I said, hey, can I have that? He said, yeah, sure. Here you go. And that gave me the idea. And I did a bigger flyer version, 8.5 by 11 flyer version. But, you know, business cards and palm cards or flyers. That's all you really need. And then what I recommend doing is, again, it's all cold calling, but draw draw a circle, your operating radius, so to speak, what you want to do, what area you want to service, and then find out how many marine businesses are in that circle, right? So whether it be 30 miles, I think mine's like 120, 250 miles. I don't know. I go down to the Solomons Island, Maryland, and I stop now in New York, and there's a reason why. There's a surveyor up in Boston I respect very, very much. And we had a good talk, and I stop at the New York border now. I let him take all Connecticut, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, and up that way. And I would recommend and refer him to anybody. That's how much I respect him. And you know, if anybody knows R. Scanlon on the in the Northeast, he's a really good guy. I like him a lot. But he takes care of everything there, and then he passes business down to me. It's been great. But anyway, and within that radius, right? Get a package set up, whether it's 10 business cards and a flyer, or 20 business cards and a couple flyers, and drive them to the marinas, drive them to the brokers, drive them to the manufacturers, and go, hey, look, this is who I am. Let's talk. And they'll put them out. And it's a great way. People come in, they want to buy a boat, they're grabbing your business card. You're not on any kind of specific list, so to speak, right? So that's how to get out there, in my opinion. The other thing is online, and I'll tell everybody, I'm 48 years old. I think I know what I'm doing online, but my wife would tell you otherwise. My son would tell you otherwise. I can't even believe I'm doing this podcast and getting away with it. But online, I do know that through business, Facebook has always been relevant, and then a website, right? You got to have a website. I can't tell you, how many guys in New Jersey, in the New Jersey market, out of all the surveyors that are listed on all the websites, maybe I think it's just me and maybe 6 other guys in New Jersey that have actual legitimate websites that explain who they are. And if you want my website, it's www.jwmarine-surveyors.com. Right, and you can take a look at my website. And I built it myself. I had that experience before. I built a couple of websites before on GoDaddy. And it was fantastic. And I just created my own website, and everybody loves it. And I get a lot of business from Canada, believe it or not. I feel like I'm probably the #1 rated marine surveyor in Canada for people in New Jersey. It's really funny, but it's true. And you got to get listed. The more you get listed online, the higher your SEO is going to be, and that's your placement location. So get on to Boat US. Boat US has a partnership with surveyors and marine businesses. It's free. I have a Boat US flag in my office here. They give you a nice welcome marketing package. And as long as you do something for Boat US customers, I think I give like a 10 or 20% discount on my surveys for Boat US members. Then they'll put you on their website. They'll list you. So that's pretty cool. So anybody that's getting insurance through Boat US or Geico, Geico, Boat US go, hey, here's some of our approved vendors. Here's a list, just like anybody else, and they'll go, here, use them, right? The other thing I did was Instagram. My daughter helped me out with Instagram. I have no idea about it, how to work Instagram at all. So that was one other thing, and there was Marine Traffic was another one I got on with commercial services. It tracks If anybody ever watches the news and you're watching on the news, they're tracking all the boats going through, or the the cargo, the shipping containers going through the Strait of Hormuz. That's off of marine traffic. It tracks every vessel, every commercial vessel in the world that has an AIS number, and I'm sorry, MMSI number. A lot of acronyms, um, but it's really helpful if you're doing cargo and commercial inspections, because the people that are calling you from overseas that want these jobs done, hey, when can you get this done? Hold on, and I go on and I can track, what's the boat name? The boat's this. And I look it up, the USS Joshua, and I look it up, and I go, no, the USS Joshua is in the middle of the Pacific right now, Guam. That's not going to come into the port of Philadelphia for another, another month or so. And then you kind of slow down the process, right? So get listed on, marine traffic. They'll list you. Boat Planet was another one. I've tried to get listed on a couple other sites. And again, I'm just going through listings. Let me see if I can find this one as I'm talking. But I was going through listings and trying to get listed on a bunch of websites. And let's see. Let me see. Of course, influential. There was a couple that I could get on, a couple that I couldn't. Marinesurveyor.com. I love Marinesurveyor.com. I think it's a great website. But because, again, I'm not affiliated with certain institutions, it says that I'm not eligible. But I'd love to be on that website. I'm just as certified and educated as other guys in other institutions, but I get it that this is for them, and this is for us, right? So that's fine. Powerboat guide. If you sign up for a powerboat guide, you pay, I think it's like $275 now for the Grand Poobah of Powerboat Guide, all the way from 1960s into 2024. He'll list you on their website, right? And Powerboat Guide does a great job because a lot of those PDF files are straight from the manufacturer. And when you're putting your report together, you can actually cut, copy, and paste, and plug that into your report, right? It gives you, overall length of the vessel, sometimes bridge clearance, draft of the boat. All this other information is on Powerboat Guide. The other one I use is sailboat data, because I do a lot of sailboats, because I grew up on a sailboat. So I feel like, hey, I could survey a sailboat, and I got the background to do that. So, but sailboatdata.com, they're another one, and that's a free one to sign up to. And again, tool wise, we'll get into tools, but placements is what I'm really getting at. They placed me. Yelp. I know Yelp is a benefit or a con, depending on how you look at it, but it's another placement, right? So if you go on and Google, JW Marine Surveyors, when I pop up, I think I take up about 3 pages of just hits, straight up hits about the business. YouTube channel is another one. Doing this podcast is going to be another one. And it helps you with the amount of placements you get. Like I said, I'm at 3 pages, maybe getting on to 4 on the web, under Google. If you go to any of my competitors, they might have a page and a half of hits, right? So the more you get listed, can get listed as much as possible, the more hits you're going to get, when people go and search you under ChatGPT, which is what a lot of people in Canada are doing now, which is why I get so much, I got people going, and I always ask people, Martin's always asked me, he goes, make sure you ask where you're getting their information from, Josh, where they're finding you. And, and I do. And a lot of the times they go, oh, I just Googled you, I ChatGPT'd you, and you came up as one of the top surveyors. So it's definitely cool. And if you need help, or information on that, I'll be more than happy to help anybody get listed a little bit more. And then staying relevant. You got to stay relevant. And what I mean by that is relevant online, relevant on your website. You always got to keep posting new posts, new pictures, um, new jobs, new cold calls, new relationships, and new training. You gotta keep going with the training. You can never know enough, in my opinion, as a Marine surveyor. Um, and then you also got to keep going through and getting um, recertified every so often. I think like ABYC, the master or the advisor, certified advisor, is good for like, let's say 5 years. Then you got to retake it. So um, definitely stay relevant with education. It's top of the list. So I wanted to get into talking about tools and equipment and what tools and equipment were of value to me. Um, Examples of like must-haves versus likes, right? So I compiled a list and trying to find. See this here real quick. Yeah, so I had a list, but I'm gonna go ahead and I think I can. I think I can wing this. Yeah, there it is. First and foremost, you need a notebook, something to take notes in, whether you're in the field or not. I know, it's. Let's see, we got a question here. Which social media platform would you feel gave the best bang for the buck? Which social media platform would you feel gave the best bang for the buck? Honestly, before I get on this tools thing, I would definitely say, Facebook. Facebook gave the best bang for the buck because it's free. YouTube's free too. Uh, but Facebook, and then constantly posting. I think that gave me the best bang for the buck. And then YouTube has been secondary. Everybody loves, every time I turn around my YouTube channel, everybody tells me, Josh, we saw your YouTube videos. I got to have you, which is cool. It means I'm doing a good job, which is awesome. Back to tools, notebook, percussion hammers. And I'll tell you, I have there's a couple different percussion hammers to use. You could always just have, right, you always just have this baby, right? Martin steals them from me all the time. Right, you buy them at Lowe's. Like hickory handle, like $12, right? Rubber on both sides. One side's heavier than the other. This one's a 12-ouncer. I don't use this anymore. I really don't. And I'm going to show you. I'm going to get to what I use, what I really use. Brad out at Due North, he has probably one of the best handmade percussion hammers I've seen, and I think I've seen that before, but it's smart. And what he did was, Brad, I'm sorry, I'm going to give your secret away. It's not really a secret, right? But yeah, showed me one time when we were getting ready for this podcast. He showed me. It's question in chat. He came up with a drumstick, and has a wooden drumstick, and on the end of the drumstick, he has a golf ball, and I guess it's glued to the drumstick. And you want to talk about a really cool percussion hammer. It's amazing. I can imagine, and I can close my eyes and see it working. I mean, it's just the handle's a little short, right? But it does the same thing, and it's probably gives you a really clear tap that you're looking for when you're doing a percussion sounding. And percussion soundings, I can tell you right now, just so everybody knows, I am again, just like C-Rays, I am a subject matter expert on Grady White 330s. 2000 to 2010. I've been on like maybe 6 of them the past 3 weeks, and they're all wet. It's crazy, and there's a lot of delamination, and everybody knows, like anybody that's in the industry knows, they're called Grady Wets, and they got they got moisture in the transoms and all over the place. And it's really cool. The last Grady White that I did, I finally bit the bullet, and I got down to. I'm going to try to find it here on one of my computers. Um, I went on to eBay a long time ago, and Sherlock. I really fell in love with one of these hammers, these percussion hammers, and they were freaking awesome. Um, yeah, on eBay you can find them. I'm going to give these guys a shout out. And they do sell. It's called Sherlock Marine Surveyors Precision Percussion Sounding Hammer. And this thing, I finally bit the bullet and bought one of these. They're not cheap, and this is my. You can't see the whole thing here. I'll hold it back here. Maybe this is my 20-inch Sherlock percussion hammer, and this morning it had a rubber or a black PVC nibral bolt on this side, and that's for your gel coated surfaces. And then you flip it over, and it's got this aluminum hex head bolt on this side, and that's for your bottom painted surfaces. So you're not dirtying the hull, right? And the sound that this thing gives out is unbelievable. I can't I can't tell them enough. And if anybody knows those guys, um, like Tom the Boat Doctor is the one that's listed on eBay. Sherlock Marine Surveyors Precision Percussion Sounding Hammer, and they have a couple different lengths. They have a 16-inch, which is out of stock. They have the 20-inch, and they have a 26-inch and a 40-inch. 40-inch. I mean, that thing's going to be like I couldn't carry around a 40-inch hammer, but this thing, I love it. It's probably one of the best percussion hammers I've ever used in my life. When you tap on the hull, you can tell. I was telling Martin today, it's almost to the centimeter, if not millimeter, that you can tell with this hammer where the delamination starts and where the delamination stops. And it was really cool. Another thing that you're going to need, in my opinion, to get started out is a moisture meter. And moisture meters, as we all know, I'll give a shout out to Frank Messina down there down in Florida there with what's the name of his company? I should know it. Yacht Masters. Yacht Masters down in Florida. Frank Messina. He's really cool. He posts a lot of videos up. But he gave me a lead on a different moisture meter. But for myself, I use the Tramex, right? Skipper 5. I like this moisture meter. I haven't figured out how to transfer the stuff onto my phone yet, or utilize the mapping, but you have to have one of these. You have to, at least this. And I think the other one that Frank uses is actually I got to get one of those too because I want to try it out. If anybody knows Frank, ask him what company he is, or I'll find it and I'll post it, or we'll talk about it at the next podcast. Tape measure. Got to have a tape measure. You can use your phone as a tape measure. I like utilizing the measuring device on my phone. It's great. You can snap a picture of it, keeps it, right? But a normal tape measure is fine. Everybody says a ladder. I usually climb the boarding ladders, and they go, "What are you doing?" But I just use a boarding ladder. I climb with the outboard engine. But if you're in a yard in the middle of winter and boats are out of the water, a ladder is a must have. Flashlight, some kind of flashlight. A multi-tool always comes in handy, right, on your belt. And then a camera. And I'll tell you, I was really disappointed. Everybody always asks on mastermarinesurveyors.com what kind of camera you use, and we talked about this. And then, I always said the Nikon Coolpix was my camera of choice. A lot of people use your phones, right? I'm old school. My dad used the Nikon Coolpix. It was a silver one, and I dropped it in a bilge. Everybody's done it, right? Dropped my phone in the water at one survey this year. So, but I like these Nikon Coolpix. They're awesome. They date stamp still. I've got 2 of them on Amazon refurbished. I think they're great. They're easy and simplistic to use. They take a halfway decent photo. The only problem is you got to use AA batteries, and the AA batteries go out really, really bad. But now, since I dropped my dad's in the water, I got 2 of them. So that way there, if I drop another one in the bilge, then I have another one for backup. But I like the Nikon Coolpix. It's small, it's compact, it takes a halfway decent picture that blows up in the inspection software that I use. And it's a pretty decent format, right? And then a computer and a printer is a must-have. I use a Dell laptop, and it does me just fine. It gets me onto my report, my InspectX software, and I do my reports. Extra tools. Let me go through my tool bag here. I'm going to give everybody my secrets. I don't know. I kind of get nervous, but no, I'm just kidding. Let's see. Got my tool bag here, but I also have a GoPro. This was something I added this year to my inventory. Any clients that aren't with me for a survey, and you can see it on my YouTube channel, I GoPro and video my survey for my clients. And I can't tell you enough. And if you wanted to, you could charge for the extra service, right? You could do it. Hey, I video for you. It's an additional charge, but the GoPro, I have a head-mounted GoPro. I look like a goofball when I'm wearing it. But you can get the body-mounted ones, you get the shoulder-mounted ones, and I find the GoPro is the easiest one to use because it's made for doing this. It's the most expensive one to use because it's a GoPro, but they're pretty nice. If anybody has any other recommendations for body cams, or if you use a camera on your survey, let me know. But your client, if they're not there, believe me, sees a lot of value in this and will thank you for taking video. And it also keeps you safe, because if you're taking video of it and then you put it in a report, then you send a report to the client, then, hey, look, I videoed. Yeah, I saw this. Oh, did you see this? Oh, there's a hole in the boat, Josh, and you missed it. I haven't had this happen, but I can imagine it would happen. Oh, really? Where was it at? Oh, was it? I go back and watch my video. No, it wasn't. Right? So, GoPro is definitely awesome. Let's see. What else do I have in here? Martin, what do I have in here? I'll tell you. I have so much stuff. This was really cool. This was probably one of my first purchases. Believe it or not, it's called an Autool battery system tester. It's a load tester. Mini load tester is what it is. And it connects to a battery. Now, you could easily use a multimeter, right, to do this. But what this one does is, and these people, just so you know, just letting everybody know, these people aren't paying me to advertise their product. I'm just letting you know. All right, I'm just telling you. But the Autool battery load tester, there's a bunch of them out there on Amazon. You plug it into your batteries. You plug in the information on the battery tester, and then it actually prints out a slip. You get some that are digital as well that you can save to your phone. And then I take those slips, I take a picture of them, and then I put them into my report. Hey, I tested your battery. I load tested your batteries. They were 860 CCAs, and they had needed recharge is what it'll tell you, or excellent, or good, or replace. But a battery load tester, and I can't tell you how many compliments I've gotten on this piece of equipment from brokers. Um, and I'll tell you, hold on, I gotta respond to this in the chat. Do you load test all batteries on pre-purchase inspections? Yes, I do. Yes, I do. And I'll tell you why I do. Number one, again, like I said, it adds value to your client, right? And it adds legitimacy to your report. You could sit there and say all day long, "Hey, I tested." Yeah, and I've seen reports, guys and ladies, right, that are out there. I've seen reports that say, "Yeah, I tested." In InspectX, yeah, I'll give you an idea. I'll pull up my InspectX while we're talking, and this one I'm working on here now, right? It was a Tiara. It was a really nice Tiara, 1999 Tiara, DC voltage, and it comes batteries. And I'll go to my batteries one, which is a second button, and it's a 12-volt flooded lead acid battery for 12-volt engine and starting vessel systems. Battery age was verified, and batteries were load tested and proven with an all-tool battery load tester. Always recommend load testing the batteries for condition. All terminal conductors should be completely disconnected from the battery before load testing. And then it goes into the U.S. Coast Guard 33 CFR. United States Coast Guard has promulgated mandatory requirements for batteries in 33 CFR, subpart 1, blah, 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 blah. And on this entry is where I put the printout slip for these. So, yes, I load tested your battery. And I do that. I do on all pre-purchase surveys. I don't do it for insurance surveys, but I do it for pre-purchase surveys. Okay, so that's the battery load tester. The other thing, I'm sure all of us have some kind of multimeter. I got another one somewhere in the office. It's actually really cool. I'll find it, dig it up somewhere. Yeah, there it is. All right. So I got this one here that I use pretty much all the time. If I beat the crap out of this one, then oh well, right? And I have my Sperry DM5300. This is my baby. I love this one. It's awesome. I got it on eBay. It was pretty reasonably priced, refurbished. Hasn't given me any troubles yet. But a couple different reasons, right? So I'll get into my other little gadgets here in a minute. But battery load test or multimeters. I utilize my multimeters a lot for, believe it or not, zincs. And I test all my zincs to ABYC standards. And the first time I did it, again, I had brokers sitting there going, "You're the first marine surveyor I've ever seen test your zincs with a multimeter." And it's the best compliment I can get when I get this, because not only is the broker saying it, but 9 times out of 10, the guys at the yard on the lifts are going, "Wow, that's impressive," right? So you're gaining that legitimacy with the guys at the yard, who will tell people, "Hey, call these guys. I've seen them in action. They're great," as well as in front of your client. And then it gives you an entryway into telling your client, "Hey, look, this is why I do this." And always explain the why, because they want to know. They don't know what you're doing, but explain the why. I had one comment one time on Facebook. I really felt I didn't feel like I wasn't ashamed, but there was a guy that posted one time. He said, "Why are you doing that?" And because I use feeler gauges on my P struts, the objective P struts, and there's a couple different ways. We'll talk about it, but anyway, you might as well just take the serial number off the toaster oven. It was what was said, and yeah, if I could, I would, right? Because you're trying to gain legitimacy. You're trying to follow the scientific process. You're trying to fill your report with value for your customer. It might not be important to you, but it might be important to your customer at one point in time, right? So that's why I do that. One of the reasons why I do that. So my other one is everybody always asks me. I have a Topdon thermal imaging handheld thermal imager. And look, before anybody says anything about this, again, I'm not the best marine surveyor out there. I don't claim to be, and I certainly don't claim to be expert on thermal imaging, but I have a gentleman that I did a survey on his boat who works at Oyster Creek Nuclear Power Plant. His name's Frank. He showed me how to use this the right way. And if you want to check internally your risers on your exhaust manifolds, believe me, buy this. Like I said, it's a Topdon. It's pretty reasonably priced on Amazon. It's got a small little screen. You can take pictures. You can upload the pictures into your report. And when you're under your exhaust terminus in your reports, you put these pictures in. Hey, risers were checked with a thermal imager, and my other thing that I do when I do risers, exhaust riser manifolds, is my Cobalt digital laser thermometer, right? And I put these two together and I go, hey, look, they were checked, they were verified to the helm, and everything looks good, everything's within reason. And so many times I've been on surveys, and another topic for another day, but brokers have told me, oh man, the last survey was on this boat, and he said that the boat failed because the risers were rolled. Well, how do you know? Did you open them up? How do you know the risers are bad if it's on land and you didn't run any water through it? I don't know. Maybe there's a way. If somebody knows a way, tell me. I'd love to know. The other things, the other tools that I carry around with me are my clamp meter for my dock pedestals and my dock power, shore power. For engines, I carry around my antifreeze tester, right? Check the antifreeze, and also I have this thing's pretty cool. I'll show everybody this engine oil quality tester. It's another All-Tool product, but you basically take this thing has a little snake on it, like a borescope, right? There it is. Very simple process. Outboard engines, it works great. Inboard engines works the same. You power it on, you shove this down the dipstick tube, and it gives you oil viscosity and lifespan of the oil. Even though it's not I won't say it's like 100% scientific to standard, but it's pretty cool. Again, adds legitimacy to your report. Hey, everything checked out. This is what was found on the engine oil quality tester. I'd highly recommend. Recommendations, replace the oil anyway, but this is how it came out, right? So that's pretty cool. If anybody needs any help finding that, all that stuff can be found on Amazon. I have a 12-volt cigarette outlet tester. This is great. I throw it in the cigarette outlet. Fire up the boat's 12-volt system. Plug this in the 12-volt outlet. It comes up with a number on here: green light, yellow light, or red light, depending on how much power is there. I take a picture of it. If it's yellow, it'll be, a B. If it's red, it's if it's different ways you can utilize this in a report, but you get the drift. And then the other one is my Klein Tools USB outlet tester. You can easily test it the old school way. My dad used to do it. He'd plug his phone into the USB outlet on the boat, and if it charged, it was working. But this one actually is a lot more scientific. It's Klein Tool. You plug it in, gives you an outlet test of like 5 volts. Snap a picture of it, throw it in your report. Hey, I checked it, right? So that's that. Not too expensive either. And then I also use the standard 120 volt Klein Tool outlet tester. GCFI outlets. Very simple, easy to read, easy to take a picture of. If you have any issues with polarity or ground faults, it'll tell you. Snap a picture of it, throw it in your report. So that's that. And I carry around the usual suspects of little gadget hand tools and that sort of thing. The other thing I carry around is I gotta show you guys that other stuff here. Carry around my caliper, trusty caliper. Mine's digital, right? So I'm checking shaft dimension, shaft diameter, chain diameter, right? All that stuff's right there. Easy to snap a picture of this, put it in the report and go, hey, look, this is what it is. Anchor road, line, 3/4 inch. You could eyeball it and you say, yeah, that's 3/4 inch. Yeah, that's 1/2 inch. But you get a way more scientific process right here by utilizing the caliper, especially on your shafts. So highly recommend grabbing a caliper. They're not very expensive. Probably one of the first extra tools that I bought. And then, like I said, with P struts and cutlass bearings, a lot of people will just use, Frank down at Yacht Masters. I asked him a couple times. I threw it in the chat in the Facebook one time under Master Marine Surveyors, and that was really cool. And Frank, I think, was the first one to say, "Oh, I use a 2x4." Yeah, you can use a 2x4. It does work, and you're checking for cutlass bearings out of tolerance. But I have an actual feeler gauge. Again, it's more about the science. When I'm checking a cutlass bearing and you got an 1.5-inch shaft, and the tolerance to ABYC standards should be 0.010. Then I go find my 0.010. Here it is right here, right? 0.010 feeler gauge. I shove it in the cutlass bearing, and then I mark it in my report. If it's out of tolerance, I find the feeler gauge that's out of tolerance too, and I mark it in the report as a finding. So that's feeler gauge. Very simple tool. Magnet. Believe it or not, I charge anybody to tell me what I use this for. I only use it for one thing, really, right? But magnet, you figure it out. I'll tell you. I use it to check compasses. So make sure the compass works, spins. And then I have a bunch of little picks that I'll use. So that's pretty much what I use for tools. Besides my boroscope and my other tools that I use for commercial purposes, I do a lot of pontoon boats. You guys out west might do pontoon boats. I don't know, but if you do a pontoon boat, I highly recommend. I use this more for commercial than I do pontoons, but I highly recommend an ultrasonic thickness tester. You really should be doing learning how to do an ultrasonic thickness test if you're doing pontoons, because there are specifications and deviations. Checking welds and that sort of thing. Very technical stuff, but you definitely need an ultrasonic thickness tester. That's for sure. All right. Okay. Use a couple other things. What I do, yes, I do oil samples. I do pull oil samples. I give a lot of business to Foley Cat. They're local in my area in Ben Salem in North Jersey. They turn the oil samples around in a day. I do charge extra for that, comparatively speaking to other things on my surveys. And, you could add that in if you wanted to do that. It's not very hard to do oil samples. I don't find it hard at all. It's just getting the pumps to work is the big problem. So, okay. So where are we at here? We are at, wow, 8:43, and I got to be done by 9 o'clock. So I'm going to say that's pretty much it for tools. And if anybody else has any tools that they use, I'd love to hear about them because I'm always looking to add to my tool bag. And, it's, again, I'm not claiming to be the best marine surveyor or know-it-all. And I'm just looking to get better and make everybody else better. And hopefully this platform will do that. What I'd like to do now is, definitely open the discussion up for questions, comments, or concerns. But before I do that, I want to tell everybody that, the one tool that I didn't go over real quick in there, I got about 10 minutes, so I will. But report writing software, I don't know, everybody in the NavTech world, right? We kind of consider InspectX to be the Bell standard. I know Frank Messina does, and I mentioned him a lot. Brad does out in Due North. A lot of other people do. I use InspectX. Um, and the reason why I use InspectX is number one, getting when I got started out in the business, um, it was nice to have somebody on the phone that I could call and ask them questions about the report writing software. When my dad started Escape Marine Surveyors, we used 3D Marine Inspect, and that was a good program. It cost about $900 to start. The startup cost is a little expensive, and then it's $120 a year to, I believe, to update the system. And it's a good system. It's just it's harder for me to use now, and because I found that InspectX is very easy for me to use uh, as I've gotten older in my life. But anyway, Force 5 is another one out there that does report writing software. I find, and I'd like to have somebody on at some point in time and discuss it, but I find their software is a little bit, in my opinion, um, not to be negative, but antiquated to use. It's probably just me, operational error. Um, but I'll tell you, InspectX. When I got on InspectX, I was like, man, $42, or it was like $38 when I first started a report, um, and now it's up to $42 a report. But I transfer that cost over to my clients as a report processing fee, and then nobody has a problem paying it. And honestly, I've gotten nothing but good things. I can't say enough, but my reports are just clean, neat, and organized. I utilize what's called the Australian model. I think Craig called it, or European model, and it's got a whole bunch of numbers and dots and do. I don't know. I don't know how they do it at InspectX, but I don't work for them. Um, they don't sponsor. Like I said, nobody sponsors me. I am an independent surveyor, but I find it very easy to use, and the quality on the backside. You can plug in your boat history report. You can plug in your U.S. Coast Guard PSIX report for documentation purposes. You can plug in your PDFs, anything you want, and it gives you that legitimacy in the report. And every time I turn in a report to one of my clients, or for recertification every year to my NavTech or ACMS, I don't have any problems. Josh, this is a perfect report. Thank you very much. This is great, and the findings are easy to use. I've manipulated and adjusted my platform quite a bit, and hopefully my next podcast I'd like to get one of the maybe I can get Craig on here to talk about InspectX, and maybe go through one of my reports together, and as we do an interview process, and is my hopes, and see how it works, and maybe get some pointers on how I can make my report better. They have an AI adjuster for in InspectX that is just second to none. It really cleans up your statements, so I like that. And like I said, there's some other things that I added to it, but I love the programs, I love the software, and I think it's very easy to use. So I mean, I can't say enough about them. Um, and so I wanted to mention them. I also, again, wanted to mention USSA NavTech Marine Surveyors for certification, and ACMS, accredited American Society of Marine Surveyors, or Accredited Society of Marine Surveyors, ACMS. Jim Cross up in Rhode Island, he's awesome. Dr. Virginia Harper is awesome, and I'm going to miss a whole bunch of other people. Brad at Due North Yacht and Small Craft Surveyors, thank you very much for pushing me to do this. Craig, I appreciate you pushing me to do this, as well as a bunch of everybody else. But the content will get better. It looks like we started with 7 watching. We're down to 5 watching. And I've gotten through, seems like 5 minutes, but it was 2 hours. So really, really cool. If anybody has any questions, comments, or concerns for me, please the 5 that are, 5 or 6 that are on here still, 7 that are on here, please ask me a question. And again, I plan on having another podcast coming up soon and have some guest speakers on, whether it be a broker or somebody else. Or Dr. Harper said that to hang in there watching, typing, save some for later. Okay, yeah. So, definitely cool. And we're gonna keep doing this. It looks like possibly the 2 hour mark is going to be the way to go. Is going to be the standard. And I'd like to thank my son Ryan for helping me out, getting me on this OBS system, which has worked fantastic tonight, and will help us get through the rest of the podcast almost seamlessly. So it is, like I said, 8:50, and I'm going to hang in here to see if anybody has anything. And then if you wanted to rewatch this video, they will be on my YouTube channel as well as my website. And again, my website is www.jwmarine-surveyors.com. That's my website. My email address for everybody is jwmarinesurveyors@gmail.com. And I will respond back to you at that. And if you have a text for me, my phone number is listed on my website. You can text me all the time. I'll save you in my phone. 609-341-6555 is my work number. And if anybody on the call that was on the call, I mentioned if you want to reach out and be a guest speaker on the show, by all means, reach out to me via email. I will get back to you because I need to fill content and I want to keep this thing going. And like I said, I'm not the god of marine surveyors. I'm sure there's other people out there that are better than I am. But I can provide a platform, and it looks like it's going to work, to get information out there to other marine surveyors, because we're getting older, not younger, and there's not a lot of people that are out there. Also like to thank again Carolyn Mantle at Boat History Report. She's awesome. I highly recommend it. If you do not use Boat History Report, there's another program out there called Boat History Alert, which is cheaper, easier on the pocket, but Boat History Report gives you the best. And trying to think of anybody else. Oh, Buck Value Pro. And we'll talk about that at a later date, but we'll talk about valuation because that came up, and maybe that might be a topic for next time. We will talk about boat valuation servicing and how to do that the right way, according to American Society of Appraisers standards. Sounds fun. So, listen, thank you all very much for hanging in there. It was great. Like I said, I'll be on for another 7 minutes. If anybody has any questions, I'll hang out here. If not, at 9 o'clock, I will sign off. So, it was fun. Had a lot of fun tonight. And I'm glad people found value in it. I got a survey tomorrow on a Craig on a Sea Ray 290 SX. So, another Sea Ray. I don't know. Like I said, seen one Sea Ray, you've seen them all. But again, thank you very much, everybody. Appreciate it. Yeah, load my bag back up because I got to get on the road tomorrow morning. That's for sure.